Hello everyone, I am back in beautiful Sydney. I have been back 2 days. I swear, my haters may say otherwise, but I bring the sunshine and butterflies with me wherever I go. I have not had one bad day of weather in all of August. That's got to be saying something about me. Come on. I'm here to talk about today this Mark Zuckerberg letter that's been released. He sent a letter to this guy called Jim Jordan. He's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the US, basically throwing the Biden Kamala Harris administration under the bus. He's done a complete 180. He used to be thick as thieves with these guys. He was part of this deep state of the Democrats that we all keep talking about, especially during the COVID era. And it seems like now he's had some come to Jesus moment or some big revelation, and he is spilling the dirt. Now, I'm going to get into some of the reasons why I think this could be possible a bit after, but let me explain to you what this letter is about. So, he sent and made public this letter. Ironically, it's been made public mostly on X, which is of course Elon Musk's platform, which is the competitor to Facebook and Instagram, which Mark Zuckerberg owns. That's probably saying something about the times, isn't it? So the letter is basically saying that Mark Zuckerberg regrets kowtowing to the Biden-Harris administration. So I think we all knew it, but it's been verified now that the Biden-Harris administration, as well as the FBI, really pressured Mark Zuckerberg and the teams at Meta to censor a lot of the data and content around COVID-19 during 2020 and 2021. So that's about like the vaccines, the lockdowns, any criticism to do with the democratic regime and the handling of COVID-19. And I think we can all remember, I mean, it was hell during that time. None of us could say anything. The social media overlords were in overdrive. Any sort of criticism against any aspect of COVID was immediately shut down. There was no room for discussion about it. And as time has gone on, we've now looked back and realized how utterly screwed up that is, to be in the Western world and not be allowed to criticize or even question or even basically talk about COVID-19 and the handling of it, unless you're pretty much on your knees saying how amazing these politicians are doing at handling it, is just a disgrace. To be in a free nation and to be treated like that, it's literally being treated like you're in a communist nation. Like we all got a bit of a taste of what it would feel like to live under communism. And let me tell you, it was pretty bad. So now all of these business leaders, social media people, we've come a long way since then, and they're looking back and regretting how they handled it. He said in the letter, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor COVID-19 content, including humor and satire. Now, how sad is that? We were at a point back then where we couldn't even make jokes about it. And the only way to get content about COVID-19 was through the internet. So channels like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at the time were our only gateway to hearing and talking and discussing about COVID-19. Now, they censored that, and it came from the top, came from the government. Mark Zuckerberg did admit that they did agree to it and they implemented it. And he says now that they shouldn't have and they're not going to in the future. But how scary is that, to think that the FBI and this deep state that we all keep talking about in Washington truly does exist? They truly did pressure the only source of information that the public had to talk about COVID to ban all discussion on it. Now, that is so scary to me. I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh, whatever, let's just sweep it under the rug. And the mainstream media are, in fact, doing that very much so, even with this release of Mark Zuckerberg's letter today. Have you seen any mainstream media outlets talk about it? No, and there's a reason for that, because they do exactly the same thing, and they continue to do it to this day. They are mere puppets of any political party around the world. We see it in Australia, we see it in America, and that's why independent news is so popular at the moment and so needed. Why this isn't front page news on the New York Times or even here in Australia just boggles my mind. It's so important to the fabric of our freedom of speech. I mean, in America, it's literally the First Amendment. this was a violation of the First Amendment by the Biden-Harris administration. That should be the headline everywhere, but it's not. And it's so topical, especially because Kamala Harris is running again. This is enough, in my mind, for her not to win. It should be, because she's complicit in censoring freedom of speech, especially in America, which is supposed to be the most free nation in the world. She was right there, front and center. She was giving the direction. She was telling the FBI what to do, who then told Mark Zuckerberg and Meta to censor any sort of questioning about COVID. Like, she was part of it. She was in the management, the leadership committee, rolling out this strategy. How is no one across this? And this woman is going to be the new president of the United States, possibly in November? No, that's scary. That to me is scary, because it shows she doesn't care about freedom of speech. She will happily censor anyone who doesn't toe her party line, who doesn't parrot and regurgitate exactly her talking points. Are the voters in America that dumb? Like, did they not realize that she was part of this leadership team over the last 4 years? She was right there. She was calling the shots, especially because Biden hasn't been very lucid for a very long time. And her running again doesn't erase everything that she's done and all the direction that she's given over the past 4 years. People seem to think it's this new candidate. No, it's the same woman. And more of this will continue to happen under her leadership if she wins. Trump called it out years ago, and he's been calling out this threat to freedom of speech for years, for a really long time. He is the only person who can stop this from happening, and people for some reason treat him like he's some conspiracy theorist. Well, we have the evidence. Mark Zuckerberg has come out here, all of the leftists love him, and for some reason people still say Trump is wrong about this. How can you deny this? So he goes on, he says the government pressure was wrong, and I regret we were not more outspoken about it. Great. Yes. I mean, we all said that back then, but it's good that 4 years later he's come to the table and he's realized that. And then he discussed censoring certain information about the Biden administration and Joe Biden's family in the lead up to the 2020 election, talking about how the FBI warned Meta about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma. He admitted that any stories or any commentary about this were demoted on Facebook while the fact checkers looked at this story, but he has now regretted that because it's come out that the reporting wasn't actually Russian disinformation. So he said that in future they won't be demoting any stories while they're at the fact checkers. They will just let them pass, and I guess people can make up their own decision about their opinion about the stories, which is how it should be. I mean, it's obvious that that was election interference. Mark Zuckerberg was complicit in covering up the bad things and the corruption of the Biden administration and the Biden family. This could have changed the outcome of the 2020 election. And is he going to suffer any consequences? No, of course not, which is absolutely ridiculous because it's such a large scale operation that he manages, and his influence is spread so far and wide. And then for him to just be able to come out and say, oh, I made a mistake and not suffer any consequences. Imagine if that was someone else. I mean, look at Julian Assange. He puts out information, content. He's locked away for years and years and years. Mark Zuckerberg censors millions of people. There were 20 million pieces of information taken down during the COVID era on Facebook because of this censorship. Do you know how differently people would have looked at the entire situation if they were allowed to be passed, if they were in the public domain, which is what Facebook and social media is supposed to be doing? Normal citizens would have been so much more well informed. Yet they weren't allowed to be informed. We were literally being told what we could consume by the government. That is a disgusting thing for a Western government to be doing. And now at the end of it, everyone's just like, oh, whoops. Okay, we'll do better next time. I don't know about you, but to me, there should be some consequences. Now, why is he doing this? Look, your guess is as good as mine. Is there something behind this? Does he know something that we don't? Does he think that Trump has a much better chance of getting in, so he's now getting on the front foot because he doesn't want to be a target of Donald Trump when he does get in? Is he trying to cozy up to the Trump administration so he's not whacked with fines or repercussions for everything that he did over the past few years? I don't know. It seems like a pretty good solution. Very smart by Zuckerberg. Or is it just a bit more innocent? Is it just the fact that he's been doing a lot of jiu-jitsu now? He's hanging out with Dana White. Maybe he's becoming a bit of a Joe Rogan bro. Maybe he's just growing up and realizing that the deep state is not on our side, that he doesn't want to be complicit in this corrupt political landscape that seems to be going on in the US, especially in the Biden administration. That's really hard for me to fathom because Mark Zuckerberg has always been this robot character where people don't think that he has emotions, and he kind of just does things for his own gain and to make Facebook and Meta the biggest organization that he possibly can. So a lot of people see him as this evil overlord. So I don't know, are his motivations for releasing this letter and being transparent and really honest purely innocent and real, or is it a business decision? I think he's seen a lot of people moving towards X and things like Rumble, and the climate being a little bit more anti-government. Remember when Trump was shot, he said that was badass. Like, it seems like he's moving more towards the center right in his opinions and the way he looks at things. Like, I think during the COVID era, he would never have said a good word about Donald Trump if his life depended on it. He didn't want those optics. But now people are seeing through this Biden-Harris administration, and maybe he wants the public optics of him being a bit more centered. Maybe he doesn't want people to move from Facebook and Instagram to X because obviously it's going to hurt the bottom line of Meta. So maybe he's trying to attract users from both sides. Could just be a business decision. I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but I will say it's refreshing. I like it. I hope that it's not proven to be a false realization and that there's something else to it. I really hope that it's genuine, and I hope that he's just grown up and seen the light. And if it is genuine, good on him. We can't berate people for growing and maturing. Let's hope this is the new iteration of Meta.